Alright guys, welcome to our second video. Today we're going to be talking about measurement as it relates to length, so how we measure the length of objects. Again, we have to talk about two different systems of units, the customary, which is only used in the United States, and the metric. So we're going to talk about the customary first. So these are the measurements that we use in the United States. You have four basic units: an inch, a foot, a yard, and a mile. And just to give you a relative idea of the size of those, an inch is about the length of your thumb, foot is 12 inches or the length of your notebook, yard is 36 inches or 3 feet. Now those are equivalent measurements. Even though they're different units, they're the same length. 36 inches and 3 feet, or the width of a door, all the same length. And then a mile, there's a lot of equivalent measurements, but you really need to know feet, 5,280 feet in every mile. A mile is long. It would take you about 15 minutes to walk one entire mile, and that's if you're walking at a pretty good pace. It's also if we put 15 football fields together, end to end, that's how long a mile would be. Alright, so this is a little question for you. I want you to answer in your notes. What unit would you use to talk about how far the distance is between St. Louis, Missouri right here and New Orleans, Louisiana, which is right down here? So what distance would you use, what unit would you use to talk about the distance between these two cities? Go ahead and write that down in your notes. Okay, so we would talk about that in miles because it's the only one that's really big enough to talk about that distance without sounding a little ridiculous. In inches, you're talking about millions of inches, whereas miles, it's about 750 miles, which is much easier to comprehend. And let's see here. So what unit would you use to talk about the diameter of a quarter? We'll learn about this in a little bit. Next unit, but diameter is the line that goes directly across a circle. So the diameter of a quarter. Go ahead and write that down in your notes. Yes, it would be inches. Everything else would be just too big to talk about. All right, what length would be, or what unit would be the best measurement for the length of a car? It is yards. Feet is also acceptable. Inches are too small and miles are too big. And what unit would be the best measurement for the width of your desk? Feet would probably be the best, although you could also talk about it in inches. And last one, which unit would be the best measurement for the height of your classroom or any other room for that matter? Most people talk about it in feet, although yards would also be acceptable. For instance, you can say my ceilings are 14 feet tall, or you can say, I live in my basement, the ceilings are 8 feet tall. You can say I have 12-foot ceilings. You could also say something like my ceilings are 4 yards tall, which would be the same as 12 feet. Alright, so just really quick about reading a ruler. A lot of times on rulers you have the inches, the inch marks. So if something goes past the 1, we know that it's at least 1 inch. It's at least 1 inch long. But within the inches, they're also split down smaller than that. There's no real unit of measurement that's smaller than an inch as far as the United States system of measuring goes. So we have to break it down into fractions. And you just count how many lines you see, and then try to write the most simplified fraction you can. So on this ruler down here, we have 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 lines in between each one. So we can say this is 1/16, the next one would be 2/16, which is the same as 1/8, 3/16, 4/16, which is the same as 1/4, okay, so on and so forth. So if something measured past the 1 inch and maybe to this line right here, you can go in and count and say, okay, how many lines do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 lines. This goes to the 4th line, so it's 1 4/8 of an inch, which is the same thing as 1.5 inches. So you always have that whole number and then the fraction that comes after it. Okay, so this is just one thing I want you to do in your notebook. I want you to tell me how many inches this line is right here. This big black line based on my ruler right here. Okay, now if you said that it is 1 7/8 of an inch, you would be correct. Because let's see here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And this goes to the 14th, so 14 over 16 is the same as 7 over 8, so it is 1 7/8 of an inch. And then we're going to talk about the metric unit of length. A millimeter, these are all metric. This is not United States system. This is what scientists and doctors and people in almost every other country in the entire world use. So a millimeter is about a thickness of a dime. So you can see they have a unit of measurement that's much smaller than an inch. Because if an inch is about your thumb, the thickness of a dime is about that big. It's kind of nice to have that smaller unit of measurement. They have centimeters, which is 10 millimeters, or about the width of your index finger, about how wide your index finger is, okay, so like across your fingernail. Meter is about the size of a baseball bat, or the length of a baseball bat. And a kilometer is about a 12-minute walk. It's a little bit more than half a mile. All right, so let's look at the metric length. So same question, but with different units. In the metric system, what unit would you use to measure the distance between St. Louis, Missouri, and New Orleans, Louisiana? Go ahead and answer that in your notes for me, please. Yes, we would use kilometers, and these are our abbreviations here: millimeters, centimeters, meters, or kilometers. Kilometers is the biggest one. We would have to use that to talk about the distance. Okay, so I want you to figure out how many millimeters this is. So these numbers here are expressed as centimeters, which means that each of these little lines is just 1 millimeter. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 millimeters inside of 1 centimeter. So this is actually pretty easy. Go ahead and try to answer this one on your own. Okay, so we know that it goes through 4 of these centimeters. To do that, to figure out how many millimeters it is, it's really easy. You just multiply it times 10, because there's 10 millimeters in each centimeter. So 4 times 10 is 40. So to get to this point, it's 40 millimeters plus 1, 2, 3. 43 millimeters. It's really easy to talk about metric length because you don't have to worry about the fractions when you're splitting up centimeters. You just go straight down to millimeters. Okay, so which unit would be the best measurement for the diameter of a quarter going across? Same question we had before. The best unit would be centimeters, although you could also do millimeters. The thickness of a penny, we talked about this a little bit with the dime. It would be millimeters. And what would be the best measurement for the height of a door? The best measurement for the height of the door would be in meters. Okay, the length of a pencil. Centimeters would be the best for the length of a pencil. Now, this one's a little bit tricky, and it's going to be our last question. I want you to try to do it. I'm not going to give you the answer, but I want you to try to do it on your own in your notebook, or in your math notes, please. So which one is longer, 95 millimeters or 9 centimeters? Okay, so go ahead and answer this. I will see you guys in class tomorrow or whenever I have you next. Have a great night. Bye.